Hello, hello, what is up, what is good? Reading the latest chapter of One Piece. There's Cole, he already read it. This one is titled Reverberations, which we've seen several titles like this before, but it's typically like between arcs after something major happens. They'll show kind of the impact and commentary from all sorts of characters all over the world, you know. One of my favorite things about One Piece, honestly, is those chapters, just making everything kind of feel interconnected and reminding us of a bunch of old characters and stuff. I don't think that's what's gonna happen here, although there may be like a similar thing that they've done a few times. Remember right at the start of the Whitebeard War when he first unleashes a bunch of earthquake attacks, and then they cut to all sorts of places all over the world that are experiencing earthquakes. I could see them going with something like that. This could also refer to like reverberations from this flashback into the present. Of course, there are many, many, many of those. This is a very significant moment in the history of the series. But I think that kind of like leaping through time where the narration almost takes a step back. They talk about the historical significance of stuff that we're currently witnessing, and then kind of like match cut with maybe some scenes of the present. It's something that the series has done before, but usually just kind of at the conclusion of a flashback, and that's sort of a way to start transitioning back into the present. Whereas here, I don't know. I feel like we could see some of the remaining stuff at God Valley abridged now that we've kind of had like the major stuff that's happened, and we know this is why Roger and Garp teamed up to fight Rocks. This is like the origin of that story. We understand like the tragedy behind it. The tragedy behind it that we didn't really understand before. This idea of Rocks being possessed to go eliminate his own bloodline, and I don't think there'll be any like further major surprises. So I could see God Valley kind of getting abridged from here. But remember, this is not the Valley flashback. This is the Herald flashback, which is nested inside the Loki flashback. So to go from that to like present day, I think would be very, very jarring. We have to kind of like worm our way back out of these nested flashbacks. So this could maybe just kind of take us from incidents at God Valley to the next events with Herald or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. Very cute cover page here. Everybody taking a big snooze. I like this nested pillow, almost like our nested flashbacks. Law sleeping on Beppo, sleeping on Zeus, who in turn is sleeping on this giant fluffy sheep that we've seen somewhere before. I actually can't remember where this giant fluffy sheep is from, but I recognize that design. I like that one of the birds is asleep too. It's a cute touch. Ooh, I forgot to set up the page display. Alright. Okay, so Rox is communicating psychically with these guys. Just kill me. His words, his attitudes, and his expression. They're all telling different stories. So they clearly get that, you know, Emu did something here to possess him. He's not acting in his right mind. I don't know if they fully understand the crazy demonification powers going on here. I'm still confused, like, how is Garp seeing all this shit? And then just being like, well, I guess I'm just going to continue being Marine, but whatever. Maybe that will be addressed as well. Rocks here, absurdly powerful. This is kind of like another kind of like power scaling loophole, because everybody wants to understand how powerful Rocks was compared to like Roger and Garp in his prime and Whitebeard and stuff. But here it's like the demonification definitely gives you like extra strength. So the question kind of remains unanswered, but Rocks here definitely being shown to be able to go toe for toe with toe to toe with both of them. That's you give me one toe, I'll give you another. Oh, the sky split in half again. This is a classic display of One Piece power levels. Like when Shanks clashed with Whitebeard. And recently I saw a plane flew overhead on a cloudy night, and in the moonlight, it really did look like the sky was cleaved in half. And I was like, oh my god, this is like One Piece. Okay. Everybody starts to panic, evacuate. This is truly the end of the Rocks Pirates. The rest of the God Valley melee is coming to a close too. I assume this means that the Holy Knights we saw now are like still in service. That those are little previews of enemies we're gonna have later. Because otherwise, it's kind of strange that they only showed up for like 3 panels at this point. Okay. Garp trying to get everyone to evacuate. Roger trying to get everyone to evacuate. Those two planning on staying behind to finish off Rocks. I will be back. Shall we team up for a minute? A number of issues with this, but I can't afford to let him run free. So this is kind of interesting, because like Garp doesn't know for sure that right now he is rebelling against the actions of the world government for whom he is a loyal soldier, right? Like, all he knows is that Rocks is going fucking crazy and is definitely like a major threat to everything and anything. So this team up with Roger, it's like unclear how much of an act of rebellion he actually thinks it is, and that maybe ultimately he's gonna come out of this totally like ignorant of what exactly Emu's role it was in this, because all he saw was like Saint Saturn showed up, turned into a horrifying spider demon, and he was like, wow, I guess that's one of the 5 elders. And then Emu shows up and corrupts Saint Saturn and then demonifies Rocks. And it's like, Garp, I don't think really understands like what the hell he just saw there, because nobody knows Emu exists. It's an empty throne. So I don't know. I'm just trying to figure this out, because like Garp is like a good dude. why does he still persist being a Marine after all this? He was really disturbed by the human hunt. Okay. Fight continues. That look you've got, the curse. Some good choreography. I like that even though these are some of the most powerful characters, some of the most powerful attacks, there's still some like physicality to it. There's still some like choreography and like these wrestling type attacks and stuff. Grabbing his leg and flipping him. Is there any way to break it? Just wake up. Unleashing major attacks, but still having a sense of like physicality in time and space. Something that I think is tough for Battle Shonen to do. When you keep upping up the ante, often it just turns into like spamming beams at each other or spamming summons at each other, like in Naruto. So I don't know. I'm happy to see Garp still just like chuck people. Okay. Gloriosa runs off with the Roger Pirates. Only for the rest of your life, you're gonna make good on that. Finders Keepers, Lillian, you lost. I'm gonna create a new crew where violence rules all. This is the rivalry between these two begins. Of course, we know how that ends. I think that's kind of fun to have a mix of like the origins of stories that are still ongoing, and then the origins of stories that we just kind of fairly recently saw the super definitive conclusion of. Ooh, whoa, cool. Wait. So his name is actually Marco Polo? He changed his name from Polo Graham to Marco, and he's actually Marco Polo. Okay, okay, cool, cool. I like too that he just seems to have like shown up and was just chilling on the island because he's a big fan of Whitebeard and is like, hey, there's an opportunity here. Cool, 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 cool. I like that. I like just a little glimpse of the origin of the Whitebeard pirates. You know, lots of major events just spilling out of here. I like that Whitebeard at first is totally callous to him and doesn't give a shit. Also interesting. I don't know. Maybe this is my own like lack of recollection, but does Marco not look older here than he does in like present day? Is it before he gets the Phoenix fruit and becomes, you know, able to regenerate his body or something? Alternatively, am I just stupid and this is like Marco's dad or something, and this isn't actually Marco himself, and that it's from this meeting that eventually the Whitebeard pirates start with Marco's, or with Polo's son, Marco. I don't know. Okay, everybody panicking. Dragon telling the captain of this battleship we need to rescue all these freaking people. Going totally haywire. Anyone argues against it, I'll execute him on the spot. Good. Based. It's becoming more Che-like by the minute. I'm still convinced, you know, we know that Oda likes Che Guevara and has like Che Guevara pictures and stuff, you know, the classic Che Guevara picture. Everybody has those in their college dorm. Oda's still got one. That's why he's a different kind of beast. I still think we're gonna get like a full dragon flashback at some point that fills in the gaps between this scene and, you know, the present day and the starting of the Revolutionary Army, and all that stuff will be covered. And more, I'm like, I think he's just gonna be like a Che Guevara figure. Like, I think Oda's gonna totally lean into that. I know we've already had the joke where Caribou was like rebelling against Kaido and had like the army that had the Che Guevara parody, but I think it's gonna come back. We're gonna get that kind of revolutionary style, and I feel like this is a good kind of starting point for that. Dragon just forcing people at gunpoint to accept these poor rabbits. Okay. Raleigh and Gabon go back to try to save Roger. There's the Oro Jackson. You can see the big egg on it. What's in the egg? Every time you see the egg, you gotta go, what's in the egg? We still don't know. Is it the One Piece? I don't know. No, just kidding. It's not the One Piece. Saint Saturn now making an escape on a Cipher Pole ship. Gives the order for that island to be wiped off the map. That island will have never existed. Okay, yeah. Now we're getting to kind of the point of abridgment. We got just enough of the 2v1 fight against rocks. Very, very good. Very exciting. S level top secret classification. Records of clandestine operations and special hazard pay for Naval Base G11 and Cipher Pole number 6. Cipher Pole number 6 was assigned to this, man? They couldn't get a bigger number? Registry of participants in the human hunt expunged. Site of event God Valley. Island location, area population, details erased. Number of fatalities unknown. Okay. So they understand that big black monster was something to do with the government. Okay, so this is it. Garp does understand that the horrors of what he just saw were due to the government. But he wants to stay and protect the rank and file. I like that. And that lines up with, you know, him mentoring Kobe, and it doesn't quite line up with him wanting to be Luffy and Ace, for Luffy and Ace to be Marines. I guess he still thinks it's like a way for him to keep them safe or something. He managed to make Dragon a Marine, but we saw how that went. This is interesting too. Okay, like we knew that God Valley was like this whole kind of censored, wiped off the face of the earth type incident. It was only disclosed to the Marines, you know, in that kind of hush hush need to know thing about the Rocks pirates. Um, what's interesting though is that this means there is like a major deviation with the live action show. And you might be like, who cares about the live action show? Well, not me. But I am interested in how it handles continuity with the manga. Just because that's the kind of thing that just interests me in the abstract, even though I'm not going to watch it. And I saw that there was some like promo images of the second season showing stuff from Logetown and stuff. And again, it's like I'm not gonna watch it, but I am interested in, I don't know, like how they do set design and stuff, because I just think that's neat. I think it's very cool that they're recreating One Piece environments in a live action show. And one of the random ass props they had, just as kind of background set dressing to be a little Easter egg for Giga fans like me, there was a poster talking about an opera, and the opera was called the God Valley Incident. and it had like an actor playing Garp. And I was like, what the heck? No, God Valley's like a big secret. And then I wondered, okay, like this is probably just like the props department, the set dressers and stuff screwing up or not really caring or being told, hey, you have some leeway. You don't have to jive completely with the manga's canon. Any number of explanations. But I did kind of wonder, like, or are they going to explain in the manga that it wasn't actually so secret? That now that we're seeing the whole God Valley flashback, is there going to be like a piece of, although this was officially wiped from the memory, the reverberations of it carried through as folklore after these decades, and hush hush people knew that, and it basically would give room for there to be an actual kind of like folklore opera about this much rumored incident or whatever. But here I think they're making it pretty darn clear, like, no. We this did get totally expunged, and outside of people like Roger and Garp and Whitebeard, nobody knows about this at all. Okay. All comes down to mass, doesn't it, Garp? First of all, the color of armament is a power that doesn't yield to devil fruits. Top of that, I was wreathed in the color of Supreme King. There's no way it couldn't have hurt him. Alright, Supreme King too, so they cancel out. There's no damage unless we surpass that. What the hell? This is not at all the sort of conversation I expected here. Or the sort of conversation we have in One Piece very often. One Piece is very hands-off with its like various power systems and stuff. They're there, and they're usually kind of consistent, but they're usually only mentioned in passing, and this sort of like power system arithmetic is very rarely discussed explicitly, even if it's kind of like what's happening behind the scenes. They're going to team up and try to hit him with a critical mass of Supreme King Haki. Okay. See, I don't like this. I think overall this sort of stuff in Shonen, it just kind of like wears me out. I don't think it adds too much to the series. And I liked One Piece because it doesn't typically do this sort of power system arithmetic stuff. And just like the fact that the idea of the Haki of the Supreme King, which we first witnessed a few times without explanation at all, that Shanks just like makes people pass out when he's pissed off, and then was like given a name, but it's now just sort of whispered in like hushed tones. But now it's just kind of like a building block, and they're like, how do we like use this and how do we pile it up? Oh, you know, I was using Supreme King, but he was blocking with Supreme King. Just becomes like a jargon term, you know? It doesn't have any like weight anymore. I don't know. That's okay. I think they want to really make this feel like like you understand the full equation that's necessary to take down rocks in this form as a way to set up the impossibility and difficulty of taking down Emu in the present, I think is the goal here, so that we understand that Luffy may not be able to do it like solo, that it will take Luffy plus Loki or something, you know, or plus Zoro, the double Supreme King. I don't know. Okay, so they have their plan. They're gonna do this one final attack. Don't know what I can say to console you. I don't know what happened to you either, but there's one thing I do recognize. I recognize your Zoro. Oh, that's so sick, man. Okay, this I like. They didn't need that previous panel. They just need them to say, let's do one all-out attack together. But whatever, whatever. Alright. They unleash their big final attacks. God of Fire Ace, which of course foreshadows his son. Ace, who has the flame fruit. You know, it all adds up. And Garp firing off what looks like an early version of the Gum Gum Gatling. Not using the rubber characteristics, but just punching a whole bunch really fast. Ripping to shreds rocks here. The downfall of Rocksteady Zebek and his lawless band of followers, the Rocks Pirates, who wreaked havoc on their era, caused unmistakable reverberations that shook the very world. And there's your titular reverberations, which I guess will be covered in the next chapter, really. I can imagine we now, like, abridge a bunch of other stuff to kind of... they already showed all the origins, but just to show, yeah, this is how the Whitebeard Pirates started, and the Big Mom Pirates, and the Kaido Pirates, and all of that. And then I guess we'll get back to Harold, right? Remember Giants? Remember this is the Giants flashback? Alright, good stuff. See you in 2 weeks, I believe. I think we're off next week. Really good chapter. I don't like this whole hacky math stuff, but aside from that, I really, really enjoyed it. Just crazy action, great fight scenes. Alright, see you next time. Bye-bye.